One man changed how we understand the human mind. His name was Sigmund Freud. He lived over 100 years ago, but his ideas still shape the world today. Freud is known as the father of psychoanalysis. He helped people understand why they think, feel, and dream the way they do. Before Freud, many people believed that only the things we can see and touch are important. But Freud said something different. He believed that there is a hidden world inside our minds. This hidden world controls many of our thoughts, feelings, and actions. Even when we are not aware of it, it is working all the time. Freud also taught us about dreams. He said that dreams are not just strange stories we see at night. They are messages from the hidden part of our minds. Freud believed that by understanding our dreams, we can understand ourselves better. In this video, you will learn about Freud's early life, his big ideas, and how he changed the study of the human mind. You will also hear about some of his most famous theories, like the unconscious mind, the importance of childhood, and how people sometimes hide their true feelings even from themselves. We will talk about his life in Vienna, the city where he lived and worked. We will also see how his ideas grew and spread to the whole world. Today, many of Freud's ideas are still used in psychology, art, movies, and even everyday conversations. Some of Freud's ideas are difficult, but don't worry. In this video, we will explain everything in a very easy way. You do not need to be a psychology expert to understand. By the end of the video, you will know why Freud is so important and why people still talk about him today. Get ready to discover the amazing story of a man who looked deep inside the human mind. Get ready to learn about Sigmund Freud, a man who showed the world that there is much more inside us than we ever thought. Sigmund Freud's childhood and education. Sigmund Freud was born on May 6, 1856, in a small town called Freiburg. Today, this town is in the Czech Republic, but at that time it was part of the Austrian Empire. His family was Jewish. They were not rich, but they cared a lot about learning and education. Freud's father, Jakob, was a wool merchant. He sold and traded wool to make money. Jakob was smart and had strong ideas about life. Freud's mother, Amalia, was much younger than Jakob. She loved Sigmund very much. He was her first child, and she had big dreams for him. She often called him her golden boy. When Freud was about 4 years old, his family moved to Vienna, the capital city of Austria. Vienna was a big and exciting city. It became Freud's home for most of his life. As a boy, Freud was very curious. He loved to read books and learn new things. His parents saw that he was very smart, so they gave him every chance to study. Even though his family did not have much money, they paid for the best schools they could find. Freud was a top student. He loved school and worked very hard. He was especially good at languages. Freud learned to speak German, French, Italian, Spanish, English, Hebrew, Greek, and Latin. His teachers were very impressed by him. They believed he would do something great in life. When he finished school, Freud had many choices. He thought about studying law or politics, but he loved science more. He wanted to understand how the world works. So, at the age of 17, Freud started studying at the University of Vienna. At first, Freud studied biology. He worked in a science lab and spent many hours looking at tiny animals under a microscope. He wanted to find new information about the human body. Freud was very patient and careful in his work. He even made some small discoveries. While working in the lab, Freud became very interested in the human brain. He wanted to know how the brain controls thoughts, feelings, and actions. He realized that the brain was not just a machine. It was something much more mysterious and powerful. Freud also needed to think about money. Lab work did not pay very well, and Freud wanted to have a family someday. So he decided to study medicine. He thought that being a doctor would let him both earn money and continue learning about the human mind. Freud graduated from the University of Vienna with a medical degree in 1881. After that, he started working in hospitals. He treated many different kinds of illnesses, But he always stayed most interested in the mind, how it works, why people have strange thoughts, and why people suffer from mental problems. During this time, Freud began to dream of a new kind of science, a science that would not just treat the body, but would also explore the deep and hidden parts of the human mind. This dream would later lead him to create psychoanalysis, a new way of helping people understand their thoughts and feelings. Freud's childhood and education gave him the strong base he needed. His love for learning, his hard work at school, and his deep curiosity about life all helped him become one of the most important thinkers in history. The beginning of psychoanalysis. After Freud finished his medical studies, he worked in hospitals in Vienna. He helped many people with physical problems. But Freud was always more interested in something deeper: the mind. He wanted to understand why people think and feel the way they do, especially when they are sad, scared, or confused. One day, Freud heard about a doctor in France named Jean-Martin Charcot. Charcot was helping patients by using something called hypnosis. Hypnosis is a special state where a person is awake but very relaxed. In this state, people can remember things they have forgotten or speak about feelings they do not usually talk about. Freud became very interested. He traveled to Paris to study with Charcot. He watched how hypnosis helped people remember old memories and talk about their pain. Freud thought, maybe the mind hides some feelings deep inside. Maybe people suffer because they do not even know what is inside them. After learning from Charcot, Freud returned to Vienna. He began using hypnosis with his own patients. Many of his patients were women who had problems like sudden blindness, trouble walking, or feeling sick. But there was no clear reason for these problems. Doctors could not find anything wrong with their bodies. Freud believed the cause was not in the body. It was in the mind. Over time, Freud noticed something interesting. Under hypnosis, his patients often talked about painful memories from their childhood. Sometimes they spoke about fear, sadness, or anger they had kept hidden for many years. After talking about these memories, some patients started to feel better. This gave Freud a big idea. The mind hides feelings that are too hard or too painful to face. These hidden feelings do not disappear. Instead, they stay inside and cause problems. Freud called this hidden part of the mind the unconscious. The unconscious holds memories, fears, dreams, and wishes that we are not aware of. But even if we do not know about them, they still affect how we think and act. Freud now wanted a better way to reach the unconscious mind. Hypnosis worked for some people, but not for everyone. So he looked for a new method. One day, Freud and his friend Joseph Breuer discovered something powerful. Breuer had a patient named Anna O. She was very sick, but when she talked freely about her thoughts and feelings, she started to improve. They called this the talking cure. Freud realized that if patients spoke freely without holding anything back, they could uncover hidden feelings. He called this method free association. In free association, the patient says whatever comes to mind, even if it seems silly, strange, or unimportant. Freud would listen carefully for clues about the patient's true feelings. This new way of working with patients was the beginning of a whole new science: psychoanalysis. Freud created a special place for his patients, a quiet room with a comfortable couch. Patients would lie down and talk while Freud sat behind them and listened. He wanted patients to feel relaxed and safe, so they could open their minds without fear. As Freud listened to his patients, he noticed patterns. Many times, their hidden feelings were about their childhood. Freud believed that early experiences, even those we forget, shape who we are as adults. He also studied dreams. Freud thought dreams were a way the unconscious mind spoke to us. Dreams, he said, are full of hidden meanings. By understanding dreams, we can understand our deepest wishes and fears. In 1899, Freud published a book called The Interpretation of Dreams. In this book, he explained how dreams show what is inside the unconscious mind. The book was not very popular at first, but today it is one of the most famous books in psychology. Freud also talked about something called repression. Repression happens when we push painful memories or feelings deep inside because we do not want to face them. But these repressed feelings do not go away. They stay hidden and cause problems like anxiety, sadness, or strange behavior. Another idea Freud had was about resistance. Sometimes patients found it hard to talk about certain things. They would change the subject or feel very uncomfortable. Freud believed this was the mind's way of protecting itself from painful truths. But to heal, patients had to face these hidden feelings. Freud worked hard to explain the strange and wonderful world inside the human mind. His ideas were new, exciting, and sometimes shocking. Not everyone agreed with him. Some people even laughed at his work. But Freud did not give up. He believed that understanding the unconscious mind could help people live better, healthier lives. Psychoanalysis grew slowly at first, but soon other doctors and thinkers became interested. They started to use Freud's methods and explore their own ideas about the mind. Freud continued to teach, write, and help patients. His small ideas became big ones, and his work changed psychology forever. Freud's early work with hypnosis, dreams, free association, and the unconscious mind laid the foundation for all of modern psychoanalysis. He showed the world that what we hide inside matters, and that by exploring it, we can understand ourselves better. Freud's most famous theories. Sigmund Freud had many big ideas about how the human mind works. Some of his ideas are very famous and are still talked about today. In this part, we will learn about three important ideas: the id, ego, and superego, the Oedipus complex, and dream analysis. Don't worry. We will use simple words and examples to make everything easy to understand. The id, ego, and superego. Freud said that the mind has three parts: the id, the ego, and the superego. These three parts are always working inside us. They sometimes help each other, but sometimes they fight. Let's look at each one. The id. The id is the part of the mind you are born with. It wants what it wants right now. It does not care about rules or what is right or wrong. The id only wants to feel good. It is like a little baby that cries when it is hungry or tired. Example: imagine you see a big chocolate cake. Your ID says, "Eat it all now. Don't wait." The ego. The ego is the part of the mind that understands the real world. It knows that you cannot always do what you want. The ego tries to find a way to make the id happy, but in a safe and smart way. Example: your ego says, "I want the cake too, but I will eat only one piece after dinner. That way, I will not get in trouble." The superego. The superego is like a parent inside your mind. It knows about rules, morals, and what is good or bad. The superego wants you to do the right thing, even if it's hard. Example: your superego says, "No, you should not eat the cake at all. It's not healthy, and you promise to eat better." How they work together. Every day, the id, ego, and superego are talking inside your mind. Sometimes they agree, sometimes they fight. Freud said that many of our feelings, like stress or guilt, happen because these three parts do not always agree. The Oedipus complex. Freud also talked about something called the Oedipus complex. This idea comes from an old Greek story about a man named Oedipus who loved his mother and fought his father. Freud said that when children are between 3 and 6 years old, they have strong feelings for their parents. Boys may feel a special love for their mothers. At the same time, they may feel jealous of their fathers because the father also loves the mother. Girls may feel the same way, but toward their fathers. Freud said this is normal and happens in the unconscious mind. Children do not know they feel this way. Over time, these feelings go away as children grow up. They start to understand that they cannot win the parent's love by fighting the other parent. Instead, they learn to love and respect both parents. Simple example: imagine a little boy who says, "I will marry mommy when I grow up." He doesn't really understand love yet. As he grows, he learns that he will find his own partner one day. Freud believed that if a person does not move past this stage properly, it can cause problems later in life. For example, they might have trouble in relationships when they grow up. Dream analysis. Freud also believed that dreams are very important. He thought dreams are messages from the unconscious mind. They show our secret wishes, fears, and feelings. Freud called dreams the royal road to the unconscious. He said that when we sleep, our mind is free. It can show things we hide during the day. But dreams are not always clear. They use symbols to hide the real meaning. Freud said that if we study the symbols in our dreams, we can understand what is happening deep inside us. Simple example: imagine you dream that you are flying. Freud might say this dream means you want to be free. Maybe you feel stuck in life, and flying is your mind's way of saying, I want freedom. Or maybe you dream about losing your teeth. Freud might say this means you feel afraid of losing something important, like your health, your job, or your youth. Freud taught that by talking about dreams, people could discover hidden feelings and understand themselves better. Why Freud's ideas matter. Freud's theories about the id, ego, superego, the Oedipus complex, and dream analysis help us see that there is more happening inside us than we realize. Sometimes we want things without knowing why. Sometimes we feel angry, sad, or scared and don't understand where it comes from. Sometimes we dream about strange things that have secret meanings. Freud showed that the human mind is full of mystery. He believed that by studying our thoughts, dreams, and childhood memories, we can understand ourselves better and live healthier, happier lives. Today, not everyone agrees with all of Freud's ideas, but his work changed psychology forever. Many people after him built new ideas based on his early work. Even in movies, books, and everyday life, we still see ideas from Freud's theories. How people reacted to Freud's theories. When Sigmund Freud shared his new ideas about the mind, people had many different reactions. Some people thought Freud was a genius. They believed his ideas were new, exciting, and important. But many others thought Freud was wrong. Some people even became angry at his ideas. Let's look at how people supported Freud, how they criticized him, and why his ideas were so controversial. People who supported Freud. At first, Freud's ideas were not very popular. Many doctors and scientists in Vienna did not take him seriously. They thought his ideas about dreams, childhood feelings, and the unconscious mind were strange. But slowly, some people started to listen. A few young doctors and thinkers became very interested. They believed Freud had discovered something important about how the mind works. Example: Carl Jung. One of Freud's first and most famous followers was a young Swiss doctor named Carl Jung. Jung admired Freud's work. He helped spread Freud's ideas outside of Austria, especially in Switzerland and Germany. For a time, Freud and Jung were close friends. They wrote letters to each other and worked together to teach people about psychoanalysis. Example: the Vienna Psychoanalytic Society. In 1902, Freud started a small group in Vienna. It was called the Vienna Psychoanalytic Society. The group met every week to talk about the mind and to study Freud's theories. Over time, this small group grew bigger. More people wanted to learn about psychoanalysis. They helped Freud teach and share his ideas with the world. Because of the support from these friends and students, Freud's work began to spread across Europe and America. He started to become famous. People who criticized Freud. Even though Freud had some strong supporters, he also had many critics. Some people thought Freud's ideas were too strange, too new, or too shocking. Criticism 1. Talking about sex. One big reason Freud's ideas were controversial was that he talked a lot about sexual feelings, even in children. At that time, in the early 1900s, people did not talk openly about sex. It was considered rude or shameful. Many people were shocked and angry when Freud said that young children have feelings of love and jealousy toward their parents, like in the Oedipus complex. Some doctors said Freud's ideas are dirty and dangerous. They did not want to believe that children could have such feelings. They thought Freud was making a big mistake. Criticism 2. Hard to prove. Another problem was that many of Freud's ideas were very hard to prove. Freud talked about the unconscious mind, but you cannot see it. You cannot easily measure or test it. Some scientists said, if we cannot test these ideas, how do we know they are true? They believed that real science needs clear proof. Because Freud's theories were based on talking and personal stories, not experiments, many scientists thought his work was not real science. Criticism 3. Focus on problems. Some people also said that Freud focused too much on people's problems. He talked a lot about sadness, fear, anger, and hidden pain. Some critics thought he made human life sound too dark and unhappy. They believed that people are also strong, happy, and full of hope, not only full of hidden pain. Freud's response. Freud knew that many people did not like his ideas, but he was not afraid. He kept writing books and giving speeches. He believed that even if his ideas were uncomfortable, they were still true. Freud once said, "The voice of reason is small, but it never rests." He believed that understanding the unconscious mind was the key to helping people live better lives. Even if people were angry or scared of his ideas, Freud did not stop. Real examples of reaction. In 1909, Freud was invited to give lectures in the United States at Clark University. There, American psychologists listened carefully to his talks about dreams and the unconscious mind. It was a big moment for Freud, and it helped make him famous in America too. In Europe, especially in places like Vienna, Berlin, and London, psychoanalysis became more popular in the 1910s and 1920s. Freud's followers opened special clinics where people could come to talk about their feelings and dreams. But at the same time, many universities and hospitals refused to teach Freud's ideas. Some thought they were too wild. Others thought they were too focused on sex. Even today, more than 80 years after Freud's death, people still argue about his work. Some think he was one of the greatest thinkers ever. Others think he made many mistakes. Why his ideas were controversial. Freud's ideas were controversial because they were new, surprising, and sometimes uncomfortable. He talked about parts of life that many people did not want to discuss, like hidden desires, childhood feelings, and dreams. He made people think deeply about themselves. He asked hard questions like, why do we really feel sad? What are we hiding from ourselves? How much do our childhood experiences shape who we are? Freud changed the way people saw the human mind. Before Freud, many believed that people were simple and logical. After Freud, people saw that the mind is full of hidden thoughts, fears, and wishes. Sigmund Freud's final years. As Sigmund Freud grew older, he faced many hard times. His health became very bad, and the world around him changed in dangerous ways. But even in his final years, Freud did not stop working. He stayed strong and continued to study the human mind until the very end. Let's look at the story of Freud's last years. Freud's health problems. Freud was a heavy smoker for most of his life. He loved cigars and smoked many every day. Sadly, this caused serious health problems. In 1923, when Freud was 67 years old, doctors found that he had cancer in his mouth. The cancer made it hard for Freud to speak, eat, and drink. Over the next 16 years, he had more than 30 surgeries. These surgeries were very painful. Sometimes, he had to wear a special device inside his mouth to help him speak. Even with all this pain, Freud continued to write books and meet with patients. He was very brave. He once said, "Pain is part of life. We must not let it stop us." Freud's family and close friends were very worried about him, but Freud refused to stop working. He believed that his ideas were important for the world. Danger in Austria. In the 1930s, bad things were happening in Europe. A man named Adolf Hitler and his political group, the Nazis, were rising to power in Germany. The Nazis hated Jewish people, and Freud's family was Jewish. At first, Freud thought he would be safe in Austria. But in 1938, Germany took control of Austria. Life became very dangerous for Jewish people there. Many Jewish businesses were attacked. Some people were arrested just for being Jewish. Freud's daughter, Anna Freud, was even taken by the Nazi police for questioning. This was a scary time for the whole family. They realized they had to leave Austria quickly. Moving to England, with help from friends and supporters, Freud and his family escaped to London, England in June 1938. It was not easy to leave. Freud had lived in Vienna for almost his whole life. He loved the city, but he knew that staying could mean death. In London, Freud lived in a house on 20 Maresfield Gardens. Today, this house is the Freud Museum, where people can visit and learn about his life. Even though Freud was sick and tired from the long move, he felt safer in England. He was happy to be free from danger. He said that now he could work in peace, even if only for a short time. Continuing his work. In his final year, Freud worked on a very important book called Moses and Monotheism. In this book, he explored religion, history, and the human mind. It was a hard book to write because Freud's cancer was getting worse every day. He also welcomed visitors from all over the world. Many young psychologists came to London to meet Freud. They wanted to hear his ideas directly from him. Even when he was weak and in pain, Freud was kind and happy to talk with them. One of his last important works was a short writing called The Future of an Illusion, where he talked about human hopes and beliefs. Freud's mind stayed sharp until the very end. He still had new ideas and loved deep thinking, but his body was very tired. Freud's death. By September 1939, Freud's cancer had become too painful. He could no longer eat or speak easily. Freud knew that his life was ending. He had a close friend and doctor named Max Schur. Freud asked Dr. Schur to help him die peacefully when the pain became too great. Dr. Schur agreed. On September 23, 1939, Sigmund Freud died quietly in his London home. He was 83 years old. His daughter Anna was by his side. Freud's death was a sad moment for many people around the world, but it was also a time to celebrate his life and his work. Freud had changed the way people think about the mind, dreams, childhood, and feelings. Remembering Freud today, Freud is remembered as one of the most important thinkers in history. His home in London is now a museum, full of his old furniture, books, and his famous couch, where patients once lay during therapy sessions. His ideas are taught in schools and universities all over the world. Many books, movies, and even TV shows still talk about Freud and his theories. Even though some of Freud's ideas are not accepted by all modern psychologists, his work opened the door for new ways of thinking. Without Freud, psychology might not be what it is today. The legacy of Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud changed the world. Before Freud, people did not understand the mind very well. They thought feelings were simple. They believed that if a person was sad or angry, there was an easy reason. But Freud showed that the mind is deep and full of secrets. He taught the world that sometimes we do not even know why we feel the way we do. Today, Freud's ideas are still very important. In modern psychology, many types of therapy come from his work. Talking to a therapist about your dreams, feelings, and memories is a normal part of mental health today. This would not be possible without Freud. He showed that talking can help heal the mind. Freud's ideas also changed culture. Many books, movies, and TV shows use ideas like the unconscious mind, hidden fears, and dreams. Even people who have never read Freud's books still feel his influence. When we ask ourselves, "Why did I really do that?" or "What does my dream mean?" we are thinking like Freud. Some of Freud's theories, like the Oedipus complex, are not fully accepted today. Science has moved forward, and new ideas have replaced some of Freud's older thoughts. But that is normal in science. What matters most is that Freud opened the door. He made it okay to explore the mind and talk about feelings without shame. Freud also taught us something very important. Human beings are complicated. We are not just good or bad. We are not simple machines. We have dreams, fears, memories, and hopes that live deep inside us. Because of Freud, we understand that caring for our mental health is just as important as caring for our bodies. When we feel sad, angry, or confused, it is okay to ask for help. It is okay to explore our thoughts and feelings. Sigmund Freud's work is still alive today. His ideas help millions of people find peace, understand themselves, and live better lives. His courage to study the deepest parts of the human mind changed the world forever. Freud showed us that the mind is a mystery worth exploring, and that understanding ourselves is the first step toward a better life.